info about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
I am not a slave, I was born to slide, I am not afraid. Hop about the K, oh yeah, free to God, they went out of state. I'm a child of God, I do not belong to the United States. For black history, tell Uncle Sam he can catch a fade. I went to hell, I mean school, graduated at the top of my class. Still never thought I was over my peers. We did that time together 12 years. Ain't that some movie? I think that it is. They won't control me, I'm really a member. I traveled that road, I came back with the jewels for 'em. When I pull up, they pee how the roof going. We some dog killers, won't chew bones. Know we all spit on, we supreme. Somewhere I read a nigga had a dream.
You don't have to try to be something you're not.
God, I can't stand this. Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? If that's being something I'm not, then fine.
My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois. My grandfather was a black from a long line of journeymen who lived in Connecticut since the establishment of the colonies. My father was a Bajan who came to this country a cabin boy in a merchant marina.
I know all of that, Mama.
Then know this. I am alive because of the blood of a people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world: to be allowed to be. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all. Who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud.
I was born black, I live black, and I'm gonna die probably because some cracker that knows I'm black better than you, nigga, is probably gonna put a bullet in the back of my head.
This is the remix. My father was raised in the era when black niggas couldn't claim Native American. Making music would've thought I had help, but the Indians I know wanna be the chief they self.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hit the like button on the way in. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support grassroots media. And let's get on with the content. Umar Johnson is once again triggered. Why is he triggered? Well, because naturally, on a national scale, Black Americans are waking up to their Aboriginal roots. And the more that we wake up to the fact that we are not from Africa, our ancestors are not from Africa, well, you know what that does? That really messes up that whole Pan-African grift. You know, all those content creators and social media influencers promoting Africa and telling people to go take tours of Africa and move to Africa while they live in America comfortably. Have you ever met a Pan-African that actually lives in Africa? No. But here we go, Umar Johnson. He knows his grift is coming to an end. We ain't rocking with that Pan-African bullshit no more. We ain't rocking with no African-American terminology. And he's short-circuiting because of it.
Native Africans of America. That's
Whoa. What the fuck is a Native African of America? Stop the cap, stop the cap, stop the cap. We are the Anasazi. We are the Amerindian. We are the Negro. We are the Native Black American. We are the foundational Black American. You can call us many of things, but not no Native African. Boy, what the fuck you say? I don't ever want to hear Native and African in the same sentence. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Hey, I just listened to this video again behind the scenes to run it back and see if he really called us what I think he called us. And he did. He did, y'all. Listen to this dumb shit.
Native Africans of America. That's what you should be calling yourself. See, if you tell me that I do not descend from enslaved Africans. I descend from the original Africans who came to America. I have no problem.
No. Stop it. So now he's moving the goalposts. He knows that there's so much evidence out there of black folks' indigeneity that now he's trying to say, okay, you guys are Indians, that's cool, but those Indians really came from Africa like thousands or hundreds of billions of years ago. No, stop it.
With that, if you tell me I do not descend from the enslaved African, I descend from the original Africans who came to America millennium before Columbus, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. You say, Doc, I am a descendant of the original African tribes in America. I have no problem with that. But that's not what y'all teach. That's not what you pretendians teach.
Because that's not the truth, dumbass. What are you talking about? These pan goofies want us to believe that every square inch of land on Earth was inhabited by an indigenous person except the Americas. The Americas was just totally empty. Africa, Europe, Asia, Greenland, everything else had people on it, but America was just empty until some Africans went over there. Stop it.
You pretendians teach that you are not African. You have no African DNA. That's a problem. Let me tell you why that's a problem. And I don't care about y'all hating on me on Clubhouse. They've been hating on me on YouTube, and I'm still number one. I'm still that. Listen, I don't care how many Clubhouse groups y'all start trying to take down the champion of Black consciousness. They did it on YouTube, and I'm still here. And
Amira says he's a whole Carib Indian. Hey, there's been a lot of American Indian sellouts. Jesse Jackson is an American Indian, but Jesse Jackson was the one that worked to reclassify us as African American. So they've used divide and conquer tactics for a long time now to turn our own against us.
I'm still number one.
Hey, don't get it twisted. Umar Johnson knows the truth. He know damn well we ain't all from Africa, and some of us are Aboriginal, and only few of us have African heritage. He knows all this, but it'll fuck up his grift and his speaking engagements to promote something other than Pan-Africanism.
That's right. That's right. Most degrees, most supporters, most requested. Stop playing with me. Only one with an institution, because you know we bought the whole block. Y'all talking about buy the block?
Sir, you have an abandoned trap bando in a impoverished neighborhood. You've been working on that school for like 20 years. Still not open.
Back, we bought the whole block. Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, we bought the whole block. Stop playing games. But here's the problem for you pretendians who say, I'm a Native American, but I'm not African. Here's the problem. The original Americans were African. Vasco Nunez.
That makes absolutely no sense. How are you an original American if you're African? That's a paradox. That's a double negative. That does not compute.
De Gama. Look up the European. Vasco Nunez de Gama. Go look him up. Go look him up. That European said when he showed up in the Americas, the Native Americans told him that the original people were African.
No, that's false. When the earliest Spanish conquistadors came to the Americas, the island of California, for example, because yes, at one point in time, California looked more like an island, because if you remove all these levees and dams in the Central Valley, it's all underwater, right? But that's for another live stream. I can actually pull up some sources. I'm not like Umar. I don't just talk shit in front of a camera. Let me bring up a primary source. Philosophical and Antiquarian Aboriginal History of America. Let's do some reading, guys, because at the end of the day, reading is also fundamental.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
Oh yes, let's do some reading. Let's see what the Europeans actually said. Now I got to give you some context here. I've got to give you some context. The Spanish Europeans When they came over to the Americas, they only were able to discover this land because of the North African snitches called Moors. American Indians had circumnavigated the globe since time immemorial. Africans have also circumnavigated the world since the beginning of time. So we had trade established, we had contact between the continents. And the North African Moors taught the Europeans how to get over here. And let's take a look at what some people write in their conquistador journals. Now, the Spaniards took North African Moorish guides, slaves, vassals, whatever you want to call them. And it says right here at the top, although America possesses some dark brown men approaching to be black, yet it has almost been universally believed that there were no Aboriginal blacks or Negroes found on this continent. But from considering the peculiar circumstance under which a black race was found in North America, I hold it more than probable that the common opinion is erroneous. So again, basically he's saying, hey, we never thought that there was Aboriginal black folks in America, but we found a whole race of them in North America, so they have to be Aboriginal. Torquemada says the Californians showed no manner of surprise at the sight of some Negroes that accompanied Vizcaino on a voyage to the coast. Well, wait a minute. If Vizcaino meets some California Indians, and these aren't black Indians, these are the lighter skinned Indians, and if Torquemada has, if Vizcaino has some Moorish Negro Africans with him, then shouldn't these California natives be surprised at the sight of these Moorish Negroes, right? Shouldn't they be so surprised to see people with black skin? Well, let's see what these California Indians reacted with. Torquemada says, the Californians show no manner of surprise at the sight of some Negroes that accompanied Vizcaino on a voyage to this coast. And if we scroll down a little bit and keep reading, it says, when a Negro was ordered to distribute a biscuit to the Californians at the Bay of St. Barnabas, quote, the natives seemed greatly pleased at the sight of the Negro, and they signified to him that they lived in friendship and correspondence with a people of his color, and that not far from thence was a Negro village. Damn, so not only the light-skinned California Indians not being surprised by seeing these Africans, but they're like, hey, yo, we're happy to see you. We got a whole village of some dark-skinned people down the way. But Umar wants you to believe that the Spaniards found the natives and the natives said, oh, yeah, we come from Africa. No. And even the Spaniards back then were trying to explain this away. Torquemada undertakes to explain this remarkable circumstance by supposing that the Negroes had been left there from a ship from the Philippine Islands. So this is a theory they're coming up with even back then, from 1492, 1500s, whenever this was. I think it was early 1500s. They're trying to say, hey, well, maybe these Negroes were just left here. You know, some Spanish conquistador just left some Negroes here. Now let's keep reading. But as he does not quote the time when such an event had occurred, we presume it was a mere conjecture of his own to explain an anomaly of which he had been previously ignorant. And at first we were disposed to think the supposition plausible. But as it was found on extending our searches, that the Negro character of the Indians on this coast has been distinctly remarked by various navigators, even of the present day. We deem it impossible that any few individuals who were probably without women with them when they left on the coast could have been able to communicate their peculiar complexion and features to entire nations, even after a period of above 200 years. So what does that say in plain English? It says, hey, even if you guys theorize that maybe some Spaniards left these Negroes here on the coast, these Negroes would have been without women. And even if they were left here for hundreds of years, which they weren't, they wouldn't have been able to have sex with so many native girls and have so many babies to make up for why there's such a large amount of all these black Indians. It's just logistically impossible. They came up with the theory and they debunked the theory. Let's keep reading. If you look at the little asterisks, it says here that one of the very first voyages to California was made by Cortez in 1535, who was accompanied by 400 Spaniards and 300 Negro slaves. Remember them North African Moors, they lost the war with the Spaniards, and now there were slaves over there in Spain, which is why he had 300 Negro slaves. And they're trying to say, well, hey, maybe he left some of these North Africans over here. Well, let's keep reading. He coasted both sides of the Gulf of California and returned safely to Acapulco. In this expedition, it's the earliest account that we have of Negroes having been sent to that part of America, but there's no reason to think that any of them were left on the shore. Negro slaves are worth money, y'all. Why would Cortez just leave 300 African slaves on the coast? Just, hey guys, you're free now. Just be fruitful and multiply. It's Gucci. Be free, slaves. Be free. Like, what? There's no reason to think that any of them were left on the shore, as they were valuable property. And about 70 years after this voyage of Cortez was when the voyage of Vizcaino described by Torquemada took place. And apparently that's much too short of a time for Negro villages to have been built. Guys, if we play devil's advocate and say for whatever reason Cortez in 1535 left 300 African slaves on the coast of California, let's just play hypotheticals and say that happened. Well, 70 years later, when Vizcaino sees all these Negro villages, 70 years is too short of a time frame to have such a large population of Black Indians. Come on. It was apparently much too short of a time for Negro villages to have been built, with whose inhabitants the natives have formed leagues of friendship, even if it were proved, which it has not been, that such persons had been wrecked or left ashore about these periods of time. So you see why you tune into Mike TV and not folks like Umar Johnson, because I don't just talk about it, I show you evidence as well. Exhibit B. This is a painting of California Indians playing a game at a California mission. You got light-skinned Indians, you got dark-skinned Indians. The Indian standing up on the right look like a typical nigga posted up on the block, hands in his pants and everything. So when you hear misinformation like that of which is coming out of Umar Johnson's mouth about conquistadors coming to California and the California Indians said Africans came, no, I just read you the real receipts. And again, this book is called The Philosophical and Antiquarian Aboriginal History of America. It was compiled in 1820s in London, and it's a compilation of journals from Torquemada, Vizcaino, and Cortez, dated as early as the 1500s.
Don't believe Dr. Umar? Go look up and see what the white man said who came here. Columbus.
Oh, we just read what the white man said, sir.
This was not the only European who said, quote unquote, Negroes were in the Americas. Negroes was in.
Negro is Spanish for black. Yes, there's melanated Black people on every continent of the world. That doesn't mean they're African. There's Negros in Australia. They're called Aborigines. The ancient Chinese were Negro. Negro just means black. Stop the cap, Umar.
In the Caribbean. Oh, yes, go look it up. They was using the word Negro at that time. Yes! Columbus said he found Negroes in the Caribbean. Vasco Nunez de Gama said not only did he find Negroes in America, he said that the Native Americans told him that the original people were Africans.
No, they said they lived in a league of friendship with dark-skinned Indians that kind of resembled the Negroes the Spaniards came with.
Believe me, go do your research. But here's the problem you pretendians are going to run into. Here's the problem you pretendians are going to run into. If the original Americans were African and you are not African, that automatically means that you are a descendant of the red man, the red Native American.
There is no such thing as a red man or a red Native American. Red skin was another name for copper color skin, which is still talking about black people, which is why we have a phrase red bone. What are you talking about, Umar? You're supposed to be an educator or something?
not the black Native American. See, the black Native American is the African, and they were here first. The black Native American was the African, and they were here first. The red man was not here first. The red man is the amalgamation of the Asiatics who came over, mixing with the original African to make the red. So when you say I'm not African, you cannot be the original Native American.
I wonder if he know that I know he's lying right now. Oh, you got the new Margellas? That's what's up. That's what's up. I see you. That's your BMW? That's nice. That's your girl? Golly. Okay, I see you. But I just want to know one thing. You ready? Why the fuck you lying?
Yeah, Deformed Pretty Boy says that's all you have to do is learn the history of Cali and you'll learn about the accounts of the Black Indians. That's why California white people always talk about how Cali didn't have slaves. Yeah. The stories was of a Black Indian Queen Khalifa that ruled the island of California. Come on.
You say I am not African. You cannot be the original Native American. You can't have it both ways. You are either African and you are the original Native Africans of America. Because if you're telling me you're not,
nobody on earth calls themselves the original Africans of America. That is the most ridiculous misnomer I have ever heard in my life.
As you're aware, in 1912, Dr. Walter Plecker became the first director of the Bureau of Vital Statistics. Prior to that, there were no birth certificates, and he was a director up until the 1940s, 1946, until his death. But he was part of the eugenics movement, which was a movement about creating one race of people, which was white, and everything else was put in a pot, as Tina Marie would say, and stir it up and call colored. But he went beyond board on that, wherein, as far as first Americans are concerned, he changed birth certificates and marriage licenses.
Hey, Umar Johnson is never going to mention Walter Plecker, right?
He even put out letters to census takers in 1930 that people such as myself that are first Americans and Native Americans, that he considered us as being bastards, that we were just trying to be Indian to marry into the white race. What's so interesting about that was that in the 30s he gave a presentation in New York City and on eugenics, and there were commanders associated with Adolf Hitler that attended that particular meeting.
But basically, when he was the registrar for the Bureau of Vital Records, he changed the names of Indian people in Southampton County, their race from Indian to Negro or colored.
Well, it was referred to as colored, and basically all the tribes in Virginia in the early 1900s were referred to as colored. Okay, then after the 1924 Racial Integrity Act, everything that was in that colored bowl became Negro.
If we were really from Africa, America would have never told you. I mean, what's the point of taking someone's last name, taking mother away from daughter, taking son away from father, making sure they can't speak their language, making sure they don't know their culture? If you're just going to turn around and tell them the exact location where they're from in the first place, it just makes no sense. What makes sense is telling them they're from somewhere else so they won't connect to their actual land and heritage and culture. Think about it. Peace to the gods.
African. You descend from the red man. So you are descendant of the red native, not the black native. So if you are descendant of the red native, you cannot be aboriginal. You cannot be aboriginal. You cannot be indigenous to America because the red Native American was not here first.
What are you talking about? He's oh so passionate about these lies. We have depictions of the Aboriginals of America as early as the 1500s, and the Spaniards always painted them as black folks, huh? All this talk about a red man. I don't see no red man in this. I see black folks. Discovery of the New World painting. Spanish depiction of the East Coast, West Coast, down South, Midwest. Black folks. Okay? All right. All the journals, all the accounts, all the depictions. Black Indians. Black Indians. What are we talking about? Now, Umar Johnson's kind of correct in a way, not really. He is correct in the sense that there are different ethnic groups of American Indians, just like there's different ethnic groups of everybody on different continents. You look at Africa, compare a North African to a South African. They look like different people, different phenotype, different complexion. It's the same thing here in North America. There were three main ethnic groups. We really just only have to cover the first two since the third ethnic group is in Alaska, and we ain't talking about Alaska right now. But the first ethnic group was the Anasazi, aka the Amerindian, aka the Negro people. We're the oldest, original, largest population of over 500 million. We are the descendants of the Mississippian mound builders, the Eastern woodland people. In more modern day times, these tribes may be called the Creek, the Seminole, the Chickasaw, the Yamansi, the Nottoway, the Wampanoag. The list goes on and on and on. But we are the original Indians from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. It was all Black Indian territory. And what Umar's talking about when he's talking about the red man, those are the Southwestern Plains natives. While they're still classified as Native Americans, they're really the first immigrants. These are those folks they say came across the Bering Strait from Mongolia, Russia, Siberia. These are the folks that settled in the California desert, the Arizona desert, the Utah desert, like the Navajo tribe, the Pueblo tribe. These are the Indians that look like this. Yes. There's a big difference, though, between an Indian that looks like this and an Indian that looks like this. Right, Umar? There's a big difference between an Indian that looks like this. Come on, she looked like her daddy's Genghis Khan and her mama's Elizabeth Warren. And now compare that to a real Indian that looks like this. Or an Indian that looks like this. Or an Indian that looks like this. And we can keep going. And we can keep going. The foreign pretty boy says Fatmar would never ever come to debate you about this ever. Hey, we know what happened the last time I debated Umar. He ran scared.
Well, the only reason why I mentioned people's actions is because you yourself exclusively date Black, yet you're one of the biggest scammers in our community. It's been 12 years and you still haven't.
Why you do me like that? Why you do me like that, bro?
Hey, if I'm ever going to flex something, it's the fact that I'm one of the only Black Americans to tell Umar he's a scammer to his damn face, okay? Or as close to his face as I can get. But again, guys, there's a big difference between the ethnic groups, and we know who the original American Indians are, and we know who the migrants from the Bering Strait are. And guess what? These original American Indians, these folks were not from Africa. And when we say that Black folks are indigenous, it's not just America, it's the Americas. From Alaska to Canada, what we now call the United States, Central America, South America, the Caribbean islands, there was Black Indians all across here. And if there's ever anybody that doubts that claim, I bet you they ain't heard of the Black Warmento. Put some fists and feathers in the chat if you've heard of the Black Warmento. Put a 0 in the chat if you've never heard of the Black Warmento. For people like Umar who want to say Black Indians don't exist, watch me kill them with this move here. If there's anybody that puts a 0 in the chat, though, I see a 0. Boogaloo 45 has never heard of the Black Warmento. Well, let me go ahead and bring this up. How can anybody ever claim that Black Indians did not inhabit all of the Americas when the Spaniards who colonized Central and South America instituted a colonial policy called the Black Warmento? It means whitening. It was also called the Major La Raza, which means improving the race towards an ideal whiteness. This right here is a perfect example of what it was about. This painting depicts it perfectly. You would take a Black indigenous woman and you would rape her or force her to have a baby with a European. So now her daughter comes out like this, a mulat, a mulatto. Then you force her daughter to have a baby with a European. So now her daughter comes out like this, racially ambiguous, white passing. This was a Spanish conquistador colonial practice where they sought to breed the phenotype out of the Black Aboriginal within 2 generations. In just 2 generations, we can go from Black Indian to white passing descendants of Indian mixed with conquistador. So guys, if there's If there's anyone who ever doubts that there weren't Black Indians in all of the Americas, we're talking Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Mexico, all of the Americas, Jamaica, St. Barnabas, Haiti, all of the Americas. If that wasn't the case, then who were the Spaniards trying to breed out of existence? Why, when you Google Black Remento or Branquemento, when you Google it, it tells you right up, right? Straight up, look. It was a Spanish and Portuguese social, political, and economic practice used in many post-colonial countries in the Americas and Oceania to improve the race towards a supposed ideal of whiteness. The term blanqueamiento is rooted in Latin America and is used more or less synonymously with racial whitening, which is why to this day they got such colorism issues in South America. They whiten their skin with the cream. You got Haiti, which is basically the black side of the island. You got DR, which is the lighter skin side of the island. Most people don't realize Haiti and the DR is the same place. It's the same island. It's one island, but it's just segregated, the light side and the dark side. If you look in the Brazilian favelas, all the dark-skinned people are in the favelas, in the slums. The light-skinned people are living in the cities. Guys, if there's no such thing as Black Aboriginals all across the Americas, what is the blanqueamiento? What is this? But Umar wants to tell us we ain't Indian because he says so. All right, Umar. I guess I don't exist, Umar. I don't exist. I'm not here right now. I'm not talking. This is all a figment of our imagination. I don't exist. You guys don't exist. We don't exist.
He is a mixture of the Asiatics and the original Africans. So which way do you want to play this? Which way do you want to play this? Are you a descendant of the original Africans of America? Or are you a descendant of the red people who are a mixed race group who are also of African DNA? Make up your mind. Make up your mind, pretendians. Y'all got a lot of questions y'all need to answer now.
Yeah. We're called pretendians because we identify with our ancestral roots with documentation to back it, right? I can prove with documentation that I'm an American Indian, but none of these Pan-Africans can prove they have African heritage. Come on, y'all. Isn't that crazy how we can easily prove that we're American Indian, but they can't prove they're African?
Got a lot of questions y'all need to answer because you do know the European anthropologists found skulls of African people in the Olmec. In the Olmec discoveries, there were skulls. Don't believe me. Go do it.
No one theorizes that the Olmecs are African. We acknowledge that they have Negro features, but they are distinctly a different ethnic group than Africans. Just like we may have some similar features, but we look completely different than Africans. You can do a simple Google search right now. Were the Olmecs Africans? It'll say no. All the archaeology, everyone says no. Were they melanated? Yes. Did they have big noses and thick lips? Yes. Were they what you would call modern day a black person? Would we probably classify them as a Black American or an Afro-Latina? Yes. But they're not from Africa.
Your research. Everything I'm saying, go find it. If the Olmecs were not...
Damn. Don't y'all love Mike? Instead of saying a bunch of bullshit to y'all and telling you, if you don't believe me, go find it, I showed you the sources and showed you where to find it. I told you about the Black woman and where to find it. I mean, I showed you receipts. And I mean, damn, if only motherfuckers who make these asinine claims and try to dictate heritage to us, if only they can give us their sources of information instead of telling us, oh, you don't believe me? Go find it.
An African. And if the Olmecs were not influenced by African, how in the hell did they find African skeletons in the same...
What the fuck is an African skeleton, Playboy? What is an African skeleton? He's not saying that they found remains and did a DNA test with remains found over here and compared it to a DNA test of remains found in Africa and it was a match. No, he's not saying this. He's talking about an African skeleton. Sir, there's no such thing as an African skeleton. Bones don't have nationality.
Areas where they found the Olmec heads. Help me out. You want me to keep going? Let's keep going.
A lot of people don't know that America tends to cover up the history of its Afro-Native Americans. Okay, so the Native American depiction that they mainly show in the mainstream is often a straight-haired, lighter complected, almost Euro representing person. However, the kinky-haired, black beings, we're also Native Americans. I am Native American in the flesh. So make sure you guys are tapping into your history, know where you really come from, know what land you originate from. You know, Ashe, Aseo.
You don't have to try to be something you're not.
Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? That's being something I'm not, then fine.
My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois.
I know all of that, Mama.
They don't know this. I am alive because of the blood of a people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world: to be allowed to be. It broke my heart when you changed your name. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all.
Who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud.
Yes, very clever. Very, very clever assessment, Ty. Ty says America is the only place in the world that has no black natives. Something is way wrong with that. Facts. They want us to theorize that life came out of Africa and that the native Australians were black and the native Indians were black and the native Chinese were black. And the ancient Europeans are really black, but American Indians, Americas, oh no, this was just totally uninhabited. There was just nobody here, guys. There was just nobody here until Africans came here one day. Come on, y'all. Come on. And you guys make sure to check out my new website, nativeblackancestry.com. Good Lord, if there's anyone who should check it out, it's Umar Johnson, because I give some great historical documents, a lot of evidence. I cite a lot of sources as far as Native Black American heritage, history, and culture. Matter of fact, right as soon as you hit the home page, I'm giving you a lesson on racial reclassification. Come on, guys. We were labeled Indian in 1492. Then in 1682, we became Negro. Then in 1851, we became colored. Then in 1960, we became black. Then in 1988, we became African American. And peep the psyops, guys. Do you guys see something strange about these last 2 numbers? Something here doesn't quite fit. You've got 1960 and you've got 1988. Do you guys see what's strange about this? Here, I'll let you know. 1492, 1682, 1851, 1960, 1988. Damn. If you look at these 3 figures, you see that they were kind of equally reclassifying us about every 100 years or so. 100 years, we got to reclassify them. 100 years or so, we got to reclassify them. 100 years or so, we got to reclassify them. But 1960, 1988, that's just like 20 years and some change. What happened between 1960 and 1988 to where they had to reclassify us so quick? They've never reclassified us in the same century before. They've never reclassified us that fast. 1492, 1682, 1851, 1960. But what happened in 1960 where they said, hold on, wait a minute. No, you guys are African American now. Guys, this is what happened. Remember in the 60s? Hey, now, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. We took that latest reclassification and we made it something beautiful. Black is beautiful. Black is something to be prideful about. Black is something to be boastful about. And because we took that negative moniker, black, that negative misnomer, and flipped it into such a positive, they said, hold up, we got to call an audible. Y'all not black no more. Y'all are African American. Peep game. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Every 100 years or so, they reclassify us. But after 1960, they said, no, real quick. Hold up. Jesse Jackson, we need you to convince them they're now African Americans.
Dark-skinned Indians. And we're going to see some cousins, the Mikosuki.
Yes.
Today, we're going down to Miami to see Leroy Osceola,
Yes.
the traditional Mikosuki.
Yes.
When you see their ancestors, which are our ancestors,
yes.
you look at us. You're looking at mirror images of us.
Right.
And so that is important because when you see modern-day Mikosuki who have bred out a little bit,
right.
or are breeding out
right.
gradually,
right.
and they become lighter and lighter of skin,
right.
those with the truth will say, well, this is coming from the raping of our women,
right.
the raping of our children, and their skin tone gets lighter.
Right.
And I say that because, you know, it is so, it becomes so controversial when people see people of our skin tone.
Who are light.
Oh, and if you guys aren't familiar, the black brother on the right, that is the chief, the current chief of the Yamasee tribe.
Lighter or darker.
Who are darker.
Exactly.
And then they say, oh, they're Africans. That is like saying all of the lighter versions of Native Americans in the West are Mexicans.
Exactly.
They get called that.
Sure.
They get called that.
It's ignorance.
It is ignorance.
It's sheer ignorance.
It's pure ignorance
right.
at its best.
Right.
In the pyramids of ancient Kemet, Nile Valley, Africa, in the pyramids of ancient Kemet, Nile Valley, Africa, they found smoking products, nicotine and tobacco, varieties of nicotine and tobacco that were grown in Mexico.
Okay, I've already stated that American Indians circumnavigated the globe, so have Africans. So yes, there were ancient trade networks. How do you think corn and tomatoes got over to Africa? There was cultural exchanges. We find gold tip spears from Mali with American Indians. Why? Because they were trading. People since the beginning of time have traded. But just because I do some trade with an African don't mean I'm a fucking African.
How did they end up in the pyramids? I'll tell you, Wow. Let me help you out. The Greek historian Herodotus, the Greek.
So now he's quoting racist, pedophilic, Nazi eugenicist-esque Greek men, Greeks. He's such a Pan-African, but his primary source is a fucking Greek. Okay.
Father of history, Herodotus, said that Ramses III, the Greek philosopher Herodotus said Ramses III took large.
Okay, he lost his train of thought there. You know, he's bullshitting on the fly. It's hard for him to keep the act alive. You know, he just kind of ran out of material there, spinning his wheels. We've got a question for the chat. Shout out to Boogaloo45. Boogaloo says, wait, then why are there some black people claiming the title of Moors? Hey, there are low IQ members of our community that are seeking validation elsewhere. That's always happened. There's black Americans that claim they're Moors, that claim they're Hebrew Israelites, that claim they're Mormons, that claim they're Scientologists, that claim they're transgenders, that claim they're not Egyptologists. What do they say? I think it starts with Nubian kings and gods of the earth. There's some black people who claim that they're what's the Nation of Islam, which really split from the Moorish Science Temple. I mean, there's many different cults and fringe organizations, but I can tell you there's a little bit of truth to the Hebrew thing. And when I say there's a little bit of truth to the Hebrew thing, I'm going to actually show you some primary sources. So the American Indians built 4 type of mound structures, one of which are called conical mounds. And these conical mounds, they buried their leaders with their earthly possessions. They were also often buried with their dogs, as well as artifacts, gold, that researchers would assume are Egyptian. But what we really find is that, and this is a whole subject for another stream, but America is the real Egypt. They basically stole the history of the ancient American Indians, created this tourist attraction in Egypt, and they're trying to place the origin of world history in North Africa when that's never been the case. The Spaniards came over here seeking El Dorado, the city of gold, seeking the fountain of youth. Everybody knew that the old world was over here. It was so old that they lost their way to it, and it took the Moors to teach them how to come over here again. So the truth about the Hebrew thing is this: in the conical mounds that the American Indian leaders were buried with their possessions in and stuff, they found some artifacts. And some of these artifacts are called the Decalogue Stone as well as the Keystone. The Decalogue Stone, as soon as it was excavated in the 1800s, the Smithsonian took it, hid it in the basement. It wasn't until recent years that it was taken out of the basement. Even when new researchers got access to it by the Smithsonian, they discovered that the Smithsonian was purposefully displaying it upside down. When they displayed it right side up, they said, wait a minute, this is written in ancient Hebrew. This is an image depicting Abraham, and this is a short form, abbreviated version of the Ten Commandments. This was found in an American Indian conical mound in Ohio. This is another Hebrew artifact found in a completely different place, completely different mound site, and it's written in ancient Hebrew letters. So are we the lost tribe, a Hebrew Moorish sovereign citizen? I don't know about all that shit, but at bare minimum, there is a ancient Hebrew connection with the American Indians. Also, fun fact, Mormons, their whole belief is predicated on them thinking that Native Americans descend from a tribe of Hebrews from Israel. So we've got Hebrew artifacts found with the American Indians. We've got white missionaries thinking that Native Americans are descendants of tribes of Hebrews. So, there's many different groups that believe in this thing, but at bare minimum, there is some kind of ancient Hebrew connection there. So hopefully that filled you in on the information you were seeking.
Groups of ships out to the open ocean and sea, and he sailed the four corners of the globe. I'm going to say it again. Herodotus said Ramses III was the captain of a large body of ships that sailed to the four corners of the earth. Lord have mercy.
Okay, so he's just going to repeat claims by Greek historians and act like that's something profound. And shout out to Ty. Ty says, I'm Mormon, and yes, they do teach that. Yeah, no, guys. I'm out here in the burbs, and the Mormons came knocking on my door the other day, and I actually was like, oh, you guys have a chance to talk? Let's chop it up. And I asked him straight up, I said, hey, do you guys believe in your faith that American Indians are really like ancient Hebrews? And he said, yeah, actually we do. And he pulled out a Mormon book and he handed it to me. And I say Mormon book, but I guess this is their Bible. And hold on, guys. Allow me to filibuster for just a moment. Let me see if I got that Mormon Bible on hand. Hold on. I'll be right back. Oh, yeah. I keep my books nearby. Right now, I have a blue Book of Mormon in my hands. It says the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. And let me go to the first page. Oh shit, in the first page, it's a phone number. They don't slip their phone numbers in it. They say, call me. We want you to be a part of the church. All right, hold on, guys. I'm going to the front page. I'm skipping past the credits and stuff. I'm skipping past the contents. Okay, introduction. Here's the introduction of the Book of Mormon that I'm reading right now. The Book of Mormon is a volume of Holy Scripture comparable to the Bible. It is a record of God's dealings with ancient inhabitants of the Americas and contains the fullness of the everlasting gospel. The book was written by many ancient prophets by the spirit of prophecy and revelation. Their words, written on gold plates, were quoted and abridged by a prophet historian named Mormon. The record gives an account of two great civilizations. One came from Jerusalem in 600 BC, and afterwards separated into two nations, known as the Nephites and the Lamanites. The other came from much earlier, when the Lord confounded the tongues at the Tower of Babel. This group is known as the Jaredites. After thousands of years, all were destroyed except the Lamanites, and they are among the ancestors of the American Indians. I just read to you the first paragraph of the introduction page of the Book of Mormon. Now y'all see why y'all know me as the king of receipts, right? Let's keep it going.
Y'all got some problems now. Y'all got some explaining to do, pretendians. Y'all got some explaining to do, pretendians. Here's the other thing. Last thing for the pretendians, and I'm only talking about the pretendians because they done made a million clubhouse groups trying to defame the character of the most popular black scholar in the world. They don't know YouTube already tried it and they fail. Y'all gonna fail. You can't stop this. I keep telling you, this is God-given. This is God-given. Last point for the pretendians. Most Native American tribes, and when I speak of Native American, red tribes, I'm talking about the red man, not the black man. The black man is the original Native American. The black man is the original Native American. The red man comes later. The black man.
I know, guys, it's hard to keep up. So Umar's trying to do this weird dog and pony show where he realizes there's so much evidence of black Indians he can't refute it. So now he's like, okay, the blacks are the true American Indians, but really they came from Africa a millennia ago. So really they're ancient Native African American Indian Africans. No, stop it. Stop it, please. And matter of fact, guys, he keeps saying this red man shit, this red, and it's really getting under my skin. Hold on, guys. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. I'll let you guys see a little behind the scenes look. This is why they call me the king of receipts after all. Let's go ahead and share my entire monitor. I've got multiple, but let me see if I can share just my vertical monitor. Will it allow me to share just my vertical screen? I think it will. Okay, here's my vertical monitor. We got a terabyte hard drive with a folder that says Black Indians. And what do you know? This folder that says Black Indians is nothing but irrefutable receipts on Black Indian heritage, Black Indian culture, you name it. As a matter of fact, guys, I don't think you guys can see my screen as large as I like. So let me redo this. Let me switch it up for the one time. We're going to move my my live stream feed over to the vertical monitor, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and bring this one to the Jumbotron. Okay, I got it now, guys. I got it. Thank you for your patience. So let's go back to sharing the entire screen. Here we go. And again, nothing but receipts. I got a whole terabyte hard drive of nothing but receipts on Native Black American history, culture, you name it, going back to as early as the 1500s. You do not want to play with me when it comes to Aboriginal heritage, culture, documentation. I reign supreme. But you know what? Out of all these receipts, I'm looking for something specific. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. I got so many receipts. We found it. This is what I was looking for. I'm so tired of this motherfucker talking about redskin native, redskin this, redskin that. Red never meant no Mongoloid, Asiatic, Bering Strait native. Red was another term for copper colored. That's why in our community, light skin, light brown people, we refer to them as red bone. There was a whole crayon color at one point in time called Indian red. This is what Indian red is. This is what red skin or red bone is. A woman that looks like her. Come on. So for all this red native, no. Those pale-faced Mongol immigrants, they wanted to look like our copper-colored red skin, so they put red mud on their skin. They literally rubbed red clay dirt on their skin because they wanted to get our complexion. Stop it. And yes, Rosalind, I think his nickname was Detroit Red. That's right. But as you can see, Umar Johnson nor any other pseudo social media scholar wants to debate me on this because I got nothing but time and nothing but receipts. We can keep going and keep going and keep going. Nothing but receipts. Y'all call me the king of receipts, and I live up to the name, okay? I live up to the name, yeah, as well as comedian Red Fox. That's right.
Native women. They're the sweetest, most beautiful, amazing, loving, evil, psychotic creatures you'll ever meet. But we still love them, though.
Do y'all fucking remember when they tried to convince us in school that the Native Americans were savages. All they did was kill, and they needed to be tamed. I vividly remember my social studies teachers and geography or whatever teacher it was telling us that Thanksgiving was part of some sort of peace treaty that the Europeans and the Native Americans came together so that, you know, they could form some kind of agreement to where the Native Americans can get their part and then the Europeans can get their part. No, them fucking people was killed, diseased, raped, and they started with the children first. Children, then women, then they made the husbands watch and the chiefs watch, and they killed the chiefs. And on top of all of that, Google why the wild buffaloes will be extinct in the next 20 to 30 years.
I really liked the information that I learned today, and it really opened up my mind. Before, I have to say that I was a little bit more closed-minded, and sadly, you know, I didn't really understand a lot of the things about Native American history that my mom was also have been trying to tell me about the people in America. But this really opened my mind, and it also was really, really easy information to understand. Even though it was a lot of information, it was still very, very easy to understand. So I recommend, especially for the people with closed minds or the people who don't believe some things about ancestry and Native American history of Americans, and many Americans in America, I really recommend that they give this a shot and look at this information, because I do believe that it's different and that you will learn a lot.
And you learn so much about history that they don't teach in schools. They're not actually Black, but they were Native Americans. But just because of how they looked, then they would reclassify them differently. Like first they were Native, and then they became mulatto, and then they were colored, and then they were Black, and then they were African first, then American. So it's like so many different classifications, and it sort of like keeps our true identity buried. But this, you learn how to put together your family tree. You are actually taught how to not just put together a family tree, but to connect your background with your native heritage. And that's very important.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners. Raised up the children to worship their images. Set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.